Hi, everyone. You are listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Kerry Diamond. Today's guest is Deb Freeman, the award-winning food anthropologist and writer behind the new documentary, Finding Edna Lewis, which debuts on PBS February 18th. Many of you know about Edna Lewis, who is one of America's most important culinary figures, thanks to her cookbooks and her approach to seasonality, sustainability, and farm-to-table cooking. But Edna is not as well known as she should be, so Deb wanted to do something about that. Deb was in New York for the debut of her documentary, and she is thrilled that more folks will get to know about the magic and legacy of Edna Lewis. She is also very happy for folks to experience a project she put so much of her heart and soul into. There's a Finding Edna Lewis tour across the country, so be sure to check out Deb's Instagram for cities, dates, and ticket information. The link to her Instagram is in our show notes. This interview was recorded at Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in New York City. Stay tuned for my chat with Deb Freeman. Today's show is presented by Alex Mill, Radio Cherry Bombe's brand new neighbor. They opened a cool new store at the world-famous Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, right next to where we record our show. I can literally see inside their store from where I'm sitting and be a nosy neighbor. So, what's the neighborhood gossip? Well, it looks like the spring collection has arrived at Alex Mill. I spy striped shirts, which I have a total weakness for, a USA-made sweatshirt in cherry bomb pink that I can dress up or down, lots of vintage-inspired denim, even the cutest pajamas from their P. Jimmy's collab with Jimmy Fallon. I'm a big Alex Mill fan and own several of their pieces that I wear again and again. Alex Mill is one of those brands that simplifies your closet. I can throw on any of their pieces and look cool, classic, and pulled together, whether I've put on my Alex Mill slim cargo jeans or grabbed my monogram tote. I love that their clothing and accessories are thoughtfully designed, well-made, timeless, and fun. Alex Mill is all about that perfect forever fave. Not more clothes, but the right clothes. I have a feeling Alex Mill is going to be a great neighbor. Sure, I won't be able to borrow a cup of sugar or an egg from them, but when my spring wardrobe needs a little something, Alex Mill has me covered. If you find yourself in Manhattan, swing by Alex Mill at Rockefeller Center and tell them Cherry Bombe sent you, or visit alexmill.com. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Deb Freeman, welcome to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're here to talk about one of our favorite subjects, Edna Lewis. We have long admired Edna and her works, and for years we've been saying somebody has to do a documentary about Edna Lewis. And I'm so happy to say you are that person.
Man, it's an honor to even try to bring her life to the masses, if you will. So many people in the culinary community love her and adore her, but so many people don't know her name. I hope that this documentary plays some small role into opening that door to the life of Edna Lewis and how magical she is.
You mentioned some people don't know her name. I'm hoping all of our listeners out there know who she is, but tell us who Edna is.
Edna Lewis is really just a fascinating woman, but if I had to encapsulate in one sentence, I would probably say Edna Lewis really is a pioneer in the farm-to-table movement. She is a cookbook author. She was a chef, and she really was instrumental in changing how Americans saw Southern food as a whole. And if you don't know who she is, immediately run and get Taste of Country Cooking. You will not be let down at all.
Maybe the most important American cookbook?
In my opinion, of course, as a fellow Virginian, of course, I'm going to say that. But that cookbook is so interesting because it does not read as a cookbook. And I think people, if you're unfamiliar, you open it, you think that you're going to just find recipes, but it really is a description of Freetown, Virginia, which is where she grew up. And it's a beautiful, just prose-filled book that I think you will be pleasantly surprised by.
I think it's important for people to not just own it, but read through it. It really is the foundation on which so much of what we care about has been built, food-wise.
Absolutely. When we think about sustainability, when we think about farmers, when we think about seasonality, all of these are kind of these buzzwords and catchphrases now. And I think Miss Lewis would probably say, well, this is just how we lived. This was just what we did. And now we're putting all this emphasis on it. How many years later? She was really just so ahead of the curve in how we really are supposed to eat.
What was your aha moment regarding the documentary? Like, I have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, even before the documentary came about, I have been screaming to the rafters, where's the Edna Lewis Prestige series? I've been just anyone who would listen. I'm sure I sounded like a madman.
I got goosebumps when you said Prestige series. Yes,
absolutely.
We need the Prestige series next.
Because you think of Julia Child, who I do love, but her story rather on HBO Max. There's an entire series. Where is Miss Lewis's series? And her life was fascinating. Yeah, and I really have been thinking this needs to happen. And so, ironically, I was doing an Edna Lewis dinner with Chef Leah Branch down in Richmond at the Roosevelt.
And she's the chef at the Roosevelt.
She is. Mm-hmm. She is. And so we were thinking about an Edna Lewis dinner. So I was already in that mindset of what kind of recipes, how's the history going to be told, and literally got an email from people I had never met saying, do you want to do a documentary? That's how it happened. I was just like, let's talk. What day are you free? Immediately, yes. The rest is history, as they say.
That's great. So you're in town. Well, tell us why you're in town.
I am in town because we just had the premiere of Finding Edna Lewis yesterday at Pier 57, which was beautiful and lovely. Lots of tears. People were crying. I didn't expect that from watching the documentary, but it will actually be out for the rest of the world to see on PBS on February 18th. But we just had the first viewing where, people were watching and I'm not just kind of looking at angles or like, do I sound weird?
It's hard to watch yourself on screen sometimes, right?
It's a little challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why we love podcasting.
Right, I'm with you.
And you had some VIPs in attendance.
I did. Chef Mashama Bailey, who I did not expect to make time out of her schedule. She walked there. I was like, is that Mashama Bailey?
So you had no idea Mashama was
coming?
I
didn't know. And so I was just like, you could have knocked me over with a feather. And it was just so lovely and beautiful. And she's actually in the documentary. As you already know, she is head of the Edna Lewis Foundation. And so just for her to make time for that just really was just so lovely and sweet.
But also in terms of female chef talent, that's a little bit like Beyonce showing up unannounced at your event.
Right? Like I was like, can I have a picture? I know I filmed with you and that was cool, but can I have a picture, please?
You've had a very interesting distribution strategy. So folks can watch the entire documentary shortly on PBS, but you've been releasing episodes one by one on YouTube.
Right, that's right. So Virginia Public Media initially said, all right, well, we'll see how it goes. Do an episode. We'll see, we're still kind of thinking. And so we did the first one. And then about halfway into the second one, we were actually self-funding some of that. And then finally we got the go-ahead to do a full-on documentary. And so we just kept going with this episodic theme. But what's really special about what comes out later this month is there are things in this documentary that you don't see in these episodes. And I think one of the most important and just really emotional things are you hear Edna's voice throughout the full documentary and you see her talking. We have a clip that was just digitized in November. So it was literally on reel-to-reel tapes. It was a last minute kind of, 5-second countdown. Can we get this? Oh my gosh, are we going to get it? And the University of South Carolina was so lovely and they digitized it for us. That was one of the last things that we were able to put into the film.
So her actual voice. Oh,
yeah.
That's incredible.
People started crying.
Sure.
Last night. And the first time I heard it, I was a little inconsolable, to be honest, because I think that's what was missing. Even though it was a beautiful story and I think it was well done, but I think that was missing. Her voice, someone being able to see her and being able to hear her, that was the missing piece. And I almost kind of felt like, okay, maybe I think Miss Lewis is like giving me the seal of approval.
100%.
It came in at the last minute.
Oh, how'd you find it?
Yeah, so randomly.
Goosebumps again, Deb. Give me goosebumps.
I have to give all credit to one of our producers, Hannah Ayers, over at Field Studio. She had been searching for any sort of archival footage, and randomly Nicole Taylor, in an interview back in June, July, we were talking, and she's like, there's this clip. She's talking about Christmas and what she would eat, and all of us were like, what is this clip? Where'd you see this? Oh my God. Hannah tracked it down. They digitized it for us, and literally at the last minute, it was ready and we were able to insert it before we had to send it over to PBS.
Way to go, Nicole.
Seriously.
Podcasting trailblazer, by the way.
Absolutely.
And author. We'll be right back with today's guest. Jubilee is coming up. It's our biggest event of the year. It's an amazing day of connection and community, and it is taking place in New York City on April 12th. If you are a Cherry Bombe member, be sure to use your Cherry Bombe discount when you buy your ticket. Also, if you're a member, you can apply for a Bombe Squad booth and the chance to showcase your brand at a very special rate. You can find all the details on cherrybombe.com. And members, you can find your exclusive info in your inbox. Going back to what you said, you were doing the first episode and you did not yet have a green light to do the whole thing. Wow.
We didn't. The first episode is that dinner that I was just talking about. Lance, who's the other producer, Lance Warren, Lance, Hannah, and myself felt it was so important to even just capture that dinner where people were kind of getting to eat Miss Lewis's food and getting together and just being communal. We just all felt we need to still do this. If nothing happens, then, that's how it is. But we need something. That's how much I think all of us just believed in this project.
It must have been hard figuring out what to dedicate episodes to because she had a very long life and lots of chapters to that life as well. Some weren't even food related.
Right. I mean, pheasant farmer. Like, you could do a whole, 20 minutes on pheasant farming. Why was she doing it? What happened? A seamstress for Marilyn Monroe. Like, what are we doing? So she had such a multifaceted life, but really it just came down to who can we talk to, who has a connection, who feels that connection, and can speak to that in such a way that it would make sense to a viewer. That was kind of what weeded things out and how we were able to make those decisions.
And interestingly, much of her cooking life was based here in New York City.
It was.
Cafe Nicholson, right? Tell us about that place. It sounded amazing.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not a time traveler. I would love to be a time traveler. I want to go to Cafe Nicholson because what a time, 1949, New York, and you're basically at the spot where luminaries are.
Celebrity hangout.
Exactly. Miss Lewis and her sister Ruth are in the back cooking. And so she was not the face of the restaurant, but the food was so Southern, so Black in a lot of ways. And people just kept coming back for more, which is beautiful. But yeah, she came here at a time where in the Great Migration, it was very common for African Americans to travel north and other places leaving the South to just find opportunities, find jobs. After she was a caterer for a lot of families here in New York, she got this opportunity to be executive chef. And she was also a partner, which Black woman, 1949, partner in a restaurant, ? She was known for, I would not say stereotypically Southern food. So you would find some fried chicken, but you wouldn't find, collard greens, cornbread, like the greatest hits of Southern food, if you will. But it definitely had the beginnings of that seasonal, very fresh, going to, the farmers markets to really kind of get the best ingredients. And that's where her reputation really started.
I want to find one of those menus. The New York Public Library has a great menu archive. And I think most of it is digitized. So I need to look and see if they have a Cafe Nicholson menu.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
I'll tell you if I find it.
Please do.
She also cooked at Gage and Tollner
Yes.
very late in life.
Yes. She was much older.
All you chefs out there who are like, this is going to kill me. She was like 80,
She
right?
was.
Working in the kitchen at Gage and Tollner.
And still going to the market, Greenpoint, and she would go over there and choose. So the menu's kind of changing a little bit depending on what they have. But she is actually going, bringing it back and cooking. I'm tired now.
And she rode the subway to work.
Right.
We had a guest on the podcast, Marcy Bloom. She and her husband owned Gage and Tollner at one point. She and Edna would ride the subway sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that says a lot about who she was as a person to be able to do that. And I'm sure financial is part of it, but I think passion is the other part of it. I think you have to have something in you to be at that point in your life to get up, be on the subway, as you said, go to the market, crack of dawn, basically, and then come back and you're cooking all day and you're on your feet all day. I think that says something about who she was.
Her she crab soup is still on the menu at Gage and Tollner.
It is. And so last night, actually, Chef Sohi was there, and she spoke about how she knew it was so important that there needs to be some reference to Miss Lewis on that menu. And if you haven't been engaged in Tollner, as soon as you walk in, there's a postcard at the hostess stand with her photograph on it, so that immediately you're like, okay, who is this? This is something I need to find out. I think it's just really lovely that they keep her memory alive there.
And if folks are coming to New York, you should definitely put Gage and Tollner on your list of places to visit because there is so much history. I forget when it was built, but it was like the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
And when it closed, it had all these crazy lives. It was a clothing store.
Right.
It was a Subway
And
or something.
Arby's or something.
And yeah, but the inside is landmarked. So they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't touch, thank God, they couldn't touch the inside. So you've still got the same bar
Yeah.
that Edna probably leaned against every
Mhm.
night. You've got all those mirrors and
Yeah.
light fixtures and woodwork. Chef Sohee Kim, who you mentioned, she's the co-owner and chef of the place. But they really did the most beautiful job restoring it.
Incredible. When you walk in, you're transported. It does not feel like it's 2025. I mean, you really do get a sense of what it was like 100 years ago. It's beautiful and the food is excellent.
All right, let's talk about you.
Uh-oh.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Norfolk, and so I make this joke that people who are not from there call it Norfolk, and something in me dies a little bit.
Yeah,
with
pronounce it again, because I might be one of those people who...
Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stand corrected.
I grew up in Norfolk, which is Virginia Beach. Most people kind of have an idea, so it's probably about 20 minutes from Virginia Beach. Grew up there and went to school there.
Foodie family?
My grandmother, I tell the story. I would come home from school. I never knew what we were going to eat for dinner. And so, there would be anything from meatloaf or fried chicken to collard greens or chicken pastry, which I now know is chicken dumplings. I had no idea what that was.
You called it chicken pastry.
Yep,
I
that's what
love
she
that.
called it.
Okay.
That's what she called it. And so these dishes that she was making from scratch, the only thing she made from a box was cornbread, but she changed the recipe for that. But everything else was from scratch. And so I was just like literally running off the bus to be like, okay, what have we got today? What's going on? Oh my God. And she had such an enthusiasm about food. She actually lived in New York for a few years and was obsessed with Jewish meals. Sauerkraut, and she's the first person I ever heard of from a Reuben about. I had no idea what Reuben. She loved those, and she talked about hot dogs at Coney Island, and so I have a romanticized view of New York growing up.
What's her name, or what was her
Helen
name?
Perkins.
Helen Perkins.
Helen Perkins.
Is Helen
yeah.
still with us?
She is not. She
Aw.
passed about 10 years ago, but she was a brilliant, brilliant chef.
And did you call her grandma?
I called her Nana.
Nana. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the fun fact is I was doing my ancestry about a year ago, and on her marriage license, it said cook under profession. And so now I'm like, wait a minute, did she cook in a restaurant? And no one knows. My mom doesn't know. No one knows. Everyone's passed. So no one knows. And I'm thinking, I think she might have been a professional cook. What? That would explain why everything was so good, I guess. But
Family
yeah.
mystery.
Totally.
How interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll crack that mystery one day.
I'm determined to figure that out.
Was Nana doing fusion foods and she loved like Jewish food here in New York?
I mean, there were definitely lanes. You were not going to have sauerkraut with, a main with a protein. She definitely kept them separate. But she would often talk about going to the deli, and she was upset there wasn't a good one in Norfolk, and that's what she missed. She was someone who was so curious about food, and we would talk about food and how things were prepared. You could just see her kind of come alive when that was happening. I think that just kind of passed on to me.
Did she let you help out in the kitchen?
Yeah, I was in there a lot. I will tell you, it was more listening to her rather than doing. There are things that I wish I could prepare today that I would love to eat. I only can figure out a couple of things that she's made. Still doesn't taste as good, of course. But I was definitely always in the kitchen with her, at least watching her and listening to her because she told the best stories.
Was she doing everything from memory?
Yep. So
No recipes.
nothing was written down,
Yeah.
which is such a hard thing. I think I figured out the collard greens. I think that and the cornbread and how to mix that up. The other stuff, I'm at a loss. I have no idea what's happening.
Well, it's a good reminder, folks, if you have older family members and you love what they cook,
Write it down.
Write it
Have
down.
them write it down.
or record them.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What I wouldn't give.
Well, she sounds like she was amazing.
She was.
And it's not a surprise you're doing what you do today.
Yeah. I mean, I would have never thought in a million years I would be doing this, but it makes total sense.
You love food.
Yeah.
As a kid, you love your grandma.
hmm
What do you think you're going to do professionally?
I thought I was going to be an attorney. And I was like, oh, of course I'll maybe Supreme Court Justice. And then I took pre-law in college. I was like, no, absolutely not. This is a bridge too far. So I majored in journalism. I do love writing, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write about. I thought it would be more hard-nosed kind of news, but that didn't happen, clearly. And I went into politics is what happened. And so my first job out of college was working on Capitol Hill for Sheila Jackson Lee, the 18th district in Texas. And I'm showing my age, but this is when Bill Clinton was being impeached, and my member was on judiciary. So we were in the thick of it, and I was 23 and just, what is going on?
That's intense.
It was extremely intense. There was no learning curve. Like, you had to figure it out on the spot. And so I made a lot of mistakes, clearly, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But somehow it all worked out. In one way, though, it does prep you for later in life, and you learn to think very quickly on your feet. If you can't get something done in a specific way, you have to learn how to pivot immediately. So in that way, it's actually very helpful for life in general, but it's extremely stressful in the moment, though.
How long did you last in politics?
Several years on the Hill, too, and then I moved to research and polling. I've done campaign work. I've done comms. Overall, 15 years. And then you kind of get a little burnt out sometimes.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But probably all good training for a journalism career.
Absolutely. I think that background really helped when I started food writing, being able to figure out what to ask someone. And then if they said something interesting, to then pivot and follow that thread. And it helps with research, of course, because when you're writing about it, you want to have the right sources and all of that. It really did set me up to be able to do this work.
You call yourself today a food anthropologist, at least on your website. You do.
Yes. Someone called me that and I went, you know what? That sounds good.
I think I only have interviewed one other food anthropologist, Casey Korn, who's fantastic. She's down in Atlanta. But tell folks, what's a food anthropologist?
Yeah, so it's looking at culture through food, because I think food is the gateway to be able to talk about really hard topics and how people live and all of these kind of social issues. I think if you look at it through the lens of food, it becomes a little bit easier for someone to listen to you, to be more open to some ideas, because we all have that common thread and these connections in our head with a memory in food or a person in food. And so I think it kind of allows someone to take their guard down a little bit if they're talking about a deeper social issue through food. And so that's really what I'm doing. I'm exploring race and class and culture through that lens.
When did you start podcasting? And tell folks the name of your podcast.
Yeah. So it's called Setting the Table, 10 episodes. It was one season. And so that was about 3 years ago on Whetstone Media. And that was a great experience. I had not podcasted before.
That was really? I couldn't tell. You have a good podcast voice.
You are very good. That was the first time. And so I really threw myself into that by figuring out what I wanted to cover. I have to really thank Stephen Satterfield from Whetstone for allowing me to just go, okay, sure, and coming up with a concept and being able to run with it. I'm really proud of that, because I put everything into it. And I really wanted to make people understand how African-American food is not some other, quote unquote, kind of food. It deserves to be on the canon of Chinese food or French food or Italian food. We don't talk about Black food that way, and we should.
It's interesting you said getting people to understand what's going on in the world through the lens of food. I was listening to your episode about Black female activists and food, and you were talking about the Black Panther free breakfast program and how that food would be taken away from the children for no reason. The children had done nothing. That entire episode, there were so many parallels to what's going on today and just kind of the cruelty, and where's all the concern for, people who don't have food and don't have healthcare and things that they need.
No, absolutely. And, the Black Panthers clearly were ahead of their time. I mean, free lunch program that we think of that the government runs was based on the Black Panther free food program. I think there's something to be said about making sure that all of us can eat. Like, we're not saying all of us need to, have the finest of clothing or what have you, but I feel like your basic needs, we need to be a little more compassionate about that, particularly children.
Absolutely. I think about Alice Waters a lot in that respect. I mean, she has had the same platform for as long as we've known her. She just wants free, healthy food for children. When's that going to finally happen for her? We're going to put something on Mars, for God's sakes, before that happens.
Absolutely. And again, it's something so basic. Again, it's not a pie in the sky kind of thing. And I wonder why it is such a struggle for something that just seems intuitive in a lot of ways. It's cruel that there are children who cannot eat. It's actually really cruel. Yeah.
And it should not happen in America today.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Plans for any future podcasts?
I've been thinking about one. We're starting to pitch, so I'm very excited about it.
You should do an Edna podcast. Is that what you're pitching?
It's not, but oh my God.
Yeah.
But thinking about doing Black distillers and Black brewers, because there's such a long legacy of what African Americans have done in that arena. And
some of them are having a lot of success right now.
Absolutely. There's an episode on Setting the Table where I talk about this is not a new phenomenon. African Americans have been doing that since we started in this country. And these are these little pockets of stories I think are so fascinating. And people are like, what are you even talking about? Black women were brewing beer in the 1800s? Yeah. Yeah, they were. And I just kind of want to talk about that because I think it's really interesting.
And whiskey.
And don't get me started. Do not get me started.
You've got a lot of promo to do for Finding Edna Lewis. What do you have planned in the weeks ahead?
Yeah, so we are actually going to take the film on tour, which is super exciting. So we'll be out in LA and San Francisco. We're working on Charlotte, Detroit, DC. So we've got a lot of things in the works. I just want as many people to see as possible, just because I think people may have questions when it's over. So it's exciting to be able to answer those questions and really be able to kind of engage with folks on that level. So yeah, the next few months are going to be traveling around with this movie.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Are tickets on sale for all those cities?
For some of them. My Instagram is typically where I post everything. San Francisco is already on sale. There's one in Virginia that's already up. So if anybody who's in Virginia, please stop by. We'll be in Richmond.
This was your first documentary, right?
First one.
Yeah. Are you bit by the documentary bug, or was it?
Now I'm obsessed.
Now you're obsessed. I love it.
It's a problem now because, I've talked to Lance and Hannah, the other producers, and I'm like, I've got some more ideas, guys. I've got ideas. And they're like, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Let's take a couple weeks, Deb. Let's lay down somewhere.
You mentioned the Prestige series earlier when we were talking.
Yeah.
Have you thought about working on something like that and pitching it to Netflix, HBO, all those folks?
That definitely has been in the back of my mind, particularly after seeing the reaction, and not just my kind of reaction, but seeing everyone in the room and seeing how they would kind of gasp or cry or laugh at things that she said or things that they learned. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. So actually, that's been in the back of my mind to kind of work on something like that, because I think we could do about 2.5 seasons, maybe 3, depending on if it's an hour or not.
And you have so many eras you can set it in.
Totally. Imagine the costuming. Let's start there. You know what I mean? Like, beautiful, incredible. You can obviously start in Freetown. You go to New York, and then there's Charleston, and there's a lot you could do. Would love to see that happen, of course, on like a HBO Max kind of, with a real budget.
Apple TV Plus, Netflix.
Come on.
HBO. Slide into Deb's DMs.
I will answer that DM quickly.
Any good food while you were here?
So Mark's off Madison. We had that for brunch yesterday, and my daughter inhaled the lasagna. I've never seen her eat that quickly.
Love lasagna.
So she really got a kick out of that.
How old is she?
She is 25.
Is she in media?
She is not. She's in school. She's working on her second master's in art history right now. So,
oh, wow. What does she think she'll do one day?
She wants to do curation. Yeah, with an emphasis on Asian art. All right, let's do it. Let's go.
Very cool. Is she your only child?
She is.
Yeah.
She is. One and done.
Oh, that must have been nice for her to see your documentary
Oh my gosh, I think
and the reaction to it?
I was trying not to cry, and then she looked over and told me she was proud of me, and it was just like, I need to step away for a second because you can't say that to me in public. You wait until later to say that. Not right now. I have a face of makeup.
I hope it's an amazing tour, and we'll help spread the word
Thank
as
you.
tickets go on sale. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope folks go out and see the documentary and get to hang out with you. Do you have a motto or a mantra?
All is well. That's the thing I have to keep saying, because even when it's crappy, it's going to work out. I have a sense of optimism that just kind of fuels me forward. So I just have to take a second and go, all's well. It's going to be okay. This is momentary. You're going to get through this.
Have you always been a positive person?
Absolutely not. And then I got divorced. And then I was like, I have to rebuild my life and live it differently, because I was so sad for a long time. And I started looking at things a little bit differently and started appreciating little things. And then over, a couple of years or so, I was like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Like maybe there is life after marriage and all of that, all of the things that come with that. And slowly I turned into one of those people I used to make fun of. And now I'm like, hey, good morning. What are you doing? Oh my God, it's good to see you. I know people are like, girl, calm down. It is not that deep. So I try to rein it in.
That's good advice for right now, because I think a lot of people feel like they have whiplash right now.
Absolutely.
But just to appreciate the small things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy, but I think if you just maybe find one thing a day, it'll help you think about things a little bit differently. But life is hard. And so the only way to cope with it is to find something that was good that happened that day.
Life is hard.
It's tough.
Are you good at trusting your gut?
Yes. So once I make a decision, so there's a flip-flop that happens, there's a turmoil, sometimes a pro and con list. We'll see, depending on what it is. But once I make a decision, I'm all in.
Do you make pro and con lists?
Absolutely.
For a lot of things?
Almost everything. It's really bad. I have a notebook in my bag right now.
I love this.
Not to the point where it's like where I'm going to eat dinner or something, but things that matter. When you travel, maybe you have a limited amount of time. I could see the argument for that. I'm just saying. But yeah, for most things, I do make a pro and con list. Yeah, and then I kind of think about it, and then I'm full steam ahead.
So interesting.
Yeah.
And were you always good at trusting yourself and your instincts?
Honestly, I think that happened post-divorce, because that was something that I didn't choose necessarily. And so once I was kind of on my own and had to raise my daughter, there was no one else I could kind of assign something to. I had to trust that I was smart enough to make those decisions. Don't be nervous about it. There was this whole thought of you're raising a kid, you're shaping their emotional stability. That's scary. But I have to trust that, I think I'm a good person. I hope I'm a good person. So hopefully what I'm doing is teaching her the right thing. And then that just kind of broadens into other aspects in life.
It's a good reminder for folks out there who are going through something, big upheavals, big life moments like divorce, that sometimes you come out the other side okay.
Yeah. And it takes a while, for sure. But I'm a stronger person because of it. Not that I would want to go through it again, but I think that I would not be able to handle this or any other, major things in life if I hadn't been able to kind of figure out who I was and ground myself. So,
well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, Deb, let's do a speed round.
All right.
What beverage do you start your day with?
Cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are the first in the history of Radio Cherry Bombe to say that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm a sucker for cranberry juice on ice. I'm a sucker for it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's always in my fridge.
Ocean Spray, sponsor that tour. Sponsor that Finding Edna Lewis tour.
Just saying.
Anybody works for Ocean Spray who's listening, slide into Deb's DMs.
The DMs are open.
Yep. All right. So you start the day with cranberry juice.
Yeah.
What's always in your fridge aside from cranberry juice?
Besides cranberry juice, Duke's Mayo. Another sponsor now.
Duke's.
But Duke's. It's got to be Duke's Mayo because...
Yeah. I'm in the Hellman's camp.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're forced to. There's some sort of law. We have to like it.
And sweet tea.
I hate tea.
You hate tea. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Okay.
I can't stand. I cannot do it.
I thought you were going to say you hate sweet tea. I was like, then you have to leave the South. But no, you hate tea. Oh, how interesting.
I know. It's
okay.
I'm not sure why.
Do you like coffee?
Nope.
Huh.
I don't drink coffee or tea.
No caffeine.
Coca-Cola.
Oh. Straight up or Diet Coke?
Oh, just straight up.
Okay.
Extra ice, please.
Okay.
Yes. And a straw in a can, if possible. Sorry.
What was your favorite food as a kid?
Oh, that's so hard. That's so hard. Oh my gosh. If I had to pick one, chicken pastry. I think it's also watching my grandmother make it and roll the dough out with a glass. She would use like a jelly glass to roll it out. But I can smell it. Now that I'm talking about it, I can smell it right now. I'm in the kitchen with her. So yeah, I'm going to go with chicken pastry.
What's your favorite snack food today?
I have a sweet and I have a salty. So if it's salty, we have these Amish stores and there's this mix. It's called Party Mix, I think. It's their version of like a Dorito, a Cheeto, and a corn chip and a pretzel. There's a ratio that has to be met. It's a whole thing. But that would be my salty snack, and my sweet snack would be a chocolate chip cookie.
What are you streaming right now?
I'm almost embarrassed to say that I have not watched this until now, but Mad Men. And I'm obsessed right now with Don Draper. 3 episodes to go until I finish the series. It's just like, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah, 3 to go. Wow.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I haven't watched Mad Men.
I thought I wasn't going to like it. And then as it grew, I was just like, oh, this dude is just insane.
Maybe I need to watch it. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't watched Breaking Bad. I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I haven't seen Game of Thrones either.
What's your favorite food film?
Soul Food. Because I think that one, I feel such a connection because it's very familiar. It's a great movie from the 90s if anybody wants to watch it. Vanessa Williams is in it and a ton of other great actors. But really just that Sunday dinner, you gather and there's all this insane amount of food on the table. I relate to that very deeply.
What's your most used kitchen implement?
So I've been mispronouncing stob for like the past
stove. You know how to remember it? Lobe.
Yeah.
Like earlobe?
I'd never heard anyone pronounce it. So I was like, oh, it's stob. And finally the other day someone in the store was like, oh, where's the stove? And I was like, what is stove? You mean stove? Anyway, it's like a silicone spoon. I just use it for everything. So
stove has a silicone spoon?
Yeah, it's a wooden handle. And yeah, I just use it for spooning stuff, for stirring stuff, mixing. I use it for pretty much everything.
Oh, cool. Because I only think of them with their
cast
casseroles
iron.
And cast iron and the Dutch ovens and all that. Okay, good to know. Dream travel destination?
I love Paris. So I'm just going to have to go with Paris. I'm going for my 50th birthday this year. And I'm just like, come on, I'm ready to go. The first time I went, it was like touristy, you hit the sites. The second time I went, it was like, okay, I'm going to walk around a little bit. And then I was like, oh, now I get it. Okay, it's not about the Eiffel Tower and let me take all these pictures. It's about just sitting down with people and slowing down and eating some incredible food. I'm going with Paris.
And the best walking city, I think.
Totally.
I was going to say in the world. I haven't been to every city in the world, but I was just there and had the best time. We have a fantastic Paris list on our website of all the female-fueled places. So women-owned, they're the chef or the baker or whatnot. But it's a really good list. And it's also exciting just to see how far women have come on the culinary scene in Paris.
Yeah.
Still fairly male-dominated there,
Right.
but women are making tremendous inroads and doing very cool projects.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
I'll send it to you. Last question. If you had to be trapped on a desert island with one food celebrity, who would it be and why?
Martha Stewart. And here's why. I think she can cook anything. And I think she would have a lot of stories. And so I would just be like, okay, so what really happened? And I think she would be interesting. But I also think she would give me my space when I'm like, I really want to get the hell off this island. Because I think she might be thinking the same thing. So it wouldn't be somebody in my face all the time. And it will probably look pretty. There might be like ferns over rocks. Some sort of tablescape.
She's a good choice because what can't the woman do?
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm going with that.
Smart choice, Deb. Well, Deb, you are amazing. I love what you're doing with Edna Lewis's legacy. It's so important.
Thank you.
So thank you. I know how much work this documentary was for you, and we're lucky to have it.
Thank you so much. It means the world.
That's it for today's show. I would love for you to subscribe to Radio Cherry Bombe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave a rating and a review. Anyone you want to hear on an upcoming episode? Let me know. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Joseph Hazen is the studio engineer for Newsstand Studios. Our producers are Catherine Baker and Jenna Sadu, and our editorial coordinator is Sophie Kais. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb.